Good morning or good afternoon to everyone, depending where you are. Welcome to the webinar EU Recovery 2021 Community-led Approaches on Climate Action and Energy and Opportunities for Collaboration. It's great to see so many people participating in this webinar, in which we will have a great opportunity for connecting people from different regions, from different countries of the European Union. And we will be able to share experience with ways of acting on climate and energy transformation from the community level and municipal level. So I will be the moderator of this event. My name is Michaela Pixová. I am an urban geographer and I work at the University of New York in Prague and also at the Czech Climate Coalition. So I'm really happy that we have this opportunity to talk about a topic that is really something that I'm deeply interested in, and that we can have this exchange and potentially also find different opportunities for collaboration. I would like to just ask everyone, I will just give you a brief introduction of how this webinar will take place. The webinar should not take longer than 2 hours. And there will be 7 speakers altogether, speaking for about 70 minutes. After that, we will have 30 minutes for the Q&A session. So those of you who have questions for the speakers, you can put them in the chat box. And then after that, we will start answering those questions after all the speakers have done their presentations. So it would be great if you also incline which speaker you are asking the question, so that we know immediately who to ask this question. If we do not have enough time to answer all the questions, then we will answer them by email later on after the webinar. Right now, I would like to also ask everyone to keep yourself muted, so that we don't have any disturbances during the webinar. And the very first speaker at this session is the ambassador of the Irish Republic, Mrs. Cliona Manahan, who is also the initiator of this event. Cliona is a lawyer who joined the Department of Foreign Affairs and has worked since on the peace process in the islands of Ireland and Britain, and on building capacity and connectivity for Ireland during postings at the Irish embassies in Britain, France, Denmark, and Iceland, and Consulate General in Scotland. Cliona is currently based in Prague and is keen to promote Irish-Czech bilateral connectivity. So Cliona, please, the word is yours.
Thank you very much, everybody, and a big welcome to all our speakers, to the guests who joined us. It's an honor as Irish Ambassador to the Czech Republic and as the organizer to welcome you. This first interregional webinar on climate action is focused on hearing about community-led action and sustainability projects at the local level in the Czech Republic, in Ireland and Portugal. I had read with great interest about their interaction earlier this year, so invited the speakers to share this experience firsthand. We've asked the University College of Cork to brief on innovative approaches to develop pathways for a low carbon and climate resilient future. Enterprise Ireland is with us, going to talk about the international financial institutions and the EBRD Green Cities Initiative, and Argentum on Horizon Europe. We'd like to hear your questions and views later, and as Michaela has said, the idea is to see how public, private and civil society can deepen practical collaboration in Europe. Now, we're 15 months into the global pandemic. Every one of us knows that our families, our people are living in each other's shadows. The chair of the elders, Mary Robinson, just last week said, there is a need for frontline voices from climate vulnerable countries to be heard. And the need is for communities to embrace a bottom-up approach, to own it in our responses. She reminds us regularly that our transition needs to be a just one and we mustn't leave anyone behind in our efforts. And that is at the heart of Ireland's climate support. Ireland has a strong focus, which is well recognised, on development assistance and on providing support to developing countries, small island developing states. We've committed to at least doubling that spend on international climate finance by 2030. Our actions are providing an opportunity to strengthen the multilateral system. It's a key priority for a small state like Ireland, especially during our current membership of the United Nations Security Council. Climate action cuts across Irish priorities, the realisation of human rights, the maintenance of international peace and security. In every possible way, that's what we do. In Sierra Leone, Ireland has supported Freetown City Council to reduce flooding. In Tanzania, we're supporting farming communities in drought-prone areas with resistant seeds and other interventions. And at the national level, Ireland has been progressing our own green transition. We're now known as clean tech innovators. Our research is excellent, and we're also providing green finance. Yet all regions are on their climate journeys. In Ireland, we hadn't done enough. We didn't do it quickly enough on climate action, but it's now a key priority for the government. We have an agreement to work to reduce emissions by almost 51% by 2030, about 7% a year. Last week, the director of the European Climate Foundation, Ms. Tibiani, said that Ireland's new climate bill was an impressive model for others to follow. While the level of renewable electricity on our national grid, it does mean that the ending of peat extraction, fossil fuel divestment means Ireland's status is now justified. These commitments are all in line with the European Union's Green Deal. Now, all of this is what our citizens expect. In this regard, Ireland's Citizens' Assembly was a major milestone on our climate journey. Our efforts are already beginning to transform our regions and cities, and we hope you will visit and we can reach you in Ireland when it's safe. Across the globe, we're all affected by the impacts of rises in global temperature. Youth movements have called for climate change to rise to the top of the global agenda. It's increasingly reshaping 21st century international relations and diplomacy. There's a greater likelihood of climate-related risks contributing to migration, insecurity and conflict. And while Ireland's green transition is underway, Ireland, however, only accounts for about 1% of global emissions, the EU for about 8%. So ambitious domestic climate action in our countries must be accompanied by ambitious climate diplomacy and climate financing. Meetings like this today inform our actions. Renewable energy, last year, almost 40% of our electricity came from it. The opportunities are boundless. Ireland, we hope, in the future, will go from being an energy importer to supplying electricity to mainland Europe. In conclusion, climate change, yes, is a global challenge, and the solutions must include local communities. It's critical to hear from local communities, notably Portugal today, who currently hold the EU presidency, and the Czech Republic, who will host the presidency in the second half of 2022. I encourage each and every one of you to connect with each other, to connect with us. You'll find us on social media, all the details are available, and to step up relations during this webinar. Thank you again for joining us today. To each and every one of the speakers who's made this time, and to all of you in the audience and your expertise, share your inspiring experiences. We welcome all your views on further action. I personally am committed to work with you on the next steps. Michaela, speakers, audience, over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Cliona. So our next speaker is Alexandra Revez. Alexandra Revez is a senior postdoctoral researcher with Imagining 2050 and at the University College Cork, Ireland. Her work has concentrated on key public participation issues linked to environmental disaster management and social care policy. Her research projects have explored the social dimensions of the energy system across different European communities. the collaborative evaluation and development of community service in urban neighborhoods for people with disabilities, older people and children, and with promoting interdisciplinarity in disaster research in a European context. Okay, so the floor is yours, Alexandra.
Thank you very much. I'll just share my presentation. 1 second. So I hope you can see that now. Hello, everybody. My name is Alexandra. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to participate in this webinar, exploring community-led approaches on climate action and energy. I wanted to start by thanking Noel Casserly and the Green Skibbereen group for inviting me here, and to Cliona Manahan for hosting this wonderful event. So the topic of the webinar today is community-led approaches on climate action and energy, explicitly looking at models of inter-regional collaboration on climate action that engage multiple stakeholders. And I think that the inter-regional approach being one which really helps mobilize community capacities and support toward meeting our ambitions towards mitigation and adaptation. This is a very pertinent topic. The EU's commitment to carbon neutrality and to make our economies sustainable has prompted substantial change and has given rise to many opportunities. And I think that at community level, these opportunities, how these opportunities might manifest for communities is very important for us to understand. So energy transitions is a very complex issue, and there are emerging and evolving opportunities as we speak. And events, I think, like this webinar are really important to help us learn from each other. So in today's presentation, I'm going to focus on a project that I've been involved for the last 3 years. It's called the Imagining 2050 project, and I'm going to share some of the innovative tools that we use to co-develop low carbon and climate resilient pathways with communities. So this includes a very brief overview of the project, looking then in more detail at the deliberative futures workshop approach that we developed. And I will share some insights from the work that we did with 2 communities here in Ireland, and they were Athlone and Ballincollig. Also, I'll very briefly look at the interlinked feedback that we got from multiple stakeholders on these visions. And, and I will finish with some lessons on deepening dialogues with communities to mobilize climate action. So to start off, I'll briefly tell you a little about the Imagining 2050 project. The project started in 2018 and is now very close to completion. It was carried by an interdisciplinary team of researchers from University College Cork and Queen's University Belfast. Disciplines included sociology, political science, political economy, geography, planning, climate modelling, energy system modelling, environmental social science, and chemical and process engineering. And we also partnered with graphic designers to develop our community engagement tools. So we drew from this diversity to engage with local communities on climate dialogues, particularly to develop a model of deliberative community engagement at local level. And the approach that we use draws from participatory and deliberative democracy processes, looking to promote a more connected and inclusive process to help shape and to help drive visions of change at local level. Is changing the emergence of democratic innovations such as participatory budgeting and citizens assemblies that seek to give people more voice and influence in decision making. And this approach is guided by some important principles such as inclusion, equality, and reasoned argument, which looks to ensure that dialogue embraces diversity and respectful discussion. So the rationale goes that local deliberative dialogue should be based on well understood and multifaceted information and facts. and it should consider the needs of others as well as our own, and it should contain future-oriented insights rather than just short-term thinking. And the growing prominence of deliberative democracy processes in the Irish policy landscape has fostered the development of promising policy and research innovations. Its use of citizens' assembly has prompted constitutional change on issues ranging from marriage equality, abortion laws, and the offence of blasphemy. And from a climate action policy perspective, the Citizens' Assembly recommendations on how Ireland should become a leader in climate action have also proven beneficial. Yet these are usually top-down government-led processes, and commonly they're one-off events. So we have attempted to draw in some of these ideas in a way that makes it more amenable as a grassroots approach, and that it connects with a wider democratic system and multiple stakeholders. So for this purpose, the Imagining 2050 project developed a new model called the Deliberative Futures Workshop. This is an infographic that illustrates our own approach to deliberative processes at local level. We suggest a staged process of engagement with communities. So a preliminary engagement where you get to know the community and you identify any preliminary issues. And then you have a second stage that is the central part of the process, where you engage in deliberative dialogues for visioning and developing pathways with communities. And then subsequently, you have a third stage where you share the community insights and the visions and the pathways with the wider society, including policymakers, civil society, and experts, to gain feedback and to connect the local with the national and the global. So we followed this process in two communities. We carried out work in Athlone between June 2019 and January 2020. And we also did this in Ballincollig between December 2019 and February 2020. We had further plans to work with the community in Lahinch in County Clare, but due to COVID, this was not possible. So we had to cancel those engagements with the third community. So the community in Athlone, so we developed a number of tools, and we drew from different areas of expertise in terms of visualization, responding to a growing interest in finding new ways of co-produced and engaged research. So not only did we include a deliberative process, but within the deliberative process, we also included a lot of visual and interactive tools for co-producing visions and pathways. And these included sense making, empathy mapping, storyboarding, community mapping, audience polls, and the ballot. Some of these tools were in existence. They're not innovative, but the innovative component was including them within the process of deliberative dialogue. So the first community we engaged was Athlone. Athlone is a town situated in County Westmeath in Ireland. It was built around the banks of the River Shannon and is a hub of activity in the Irish Midlands. Athlone has a problematic legacy of flooding related to building on floodplains, which is an ongoing concern. And our visions of change for Athlone focused on action rather than fixing the climate and getting the basics right. Sustainability and/or unsustainability was seen to be deeply connected to community empowerment, well-being, housing, and mobility issues. And then Ballincollig, the second community that we engaged with, is a fast-growing residential satellite town in the west part of Cork City. It is located beside the River Lee and close to the Inishcara Dam. Change is seen as a hallmark in Ballincollig town since the 50s and 60s. It is a town that has substantially grown from a very sparsely populated area to a vibrant and residential urban community with a population now of over 18,000 inhabitants. So it has a large regional park, which is identified as a major asset by the local community, and participants are very interested in maximizing the use of local assets such as the regional park and improving the quality of the natural environment and sorting out key housing and transportation issues.
So Alexandra, if you can, I just would like to notify you that we're getting close to our time limit.
Okay. Thank you, Michaela. So one of the tools that we used was the mapping exercise, and unfortunately you can't really see the detail here, but I suppose just to kind of qualify that a prevalent vision of change for participants was around fixing communities rather than fixing the climate, and looking at pre-existing supports and really building on the social infrastructure of communities. And we saw similar sort of concerns for engagement in community, Ballincollig community as well. So a key concern in terms of developing or improving the transport system, sorting out key housing issues in the community, and developing a sort of a social infrastructure that is necessary to make the transition to low carbon and climate resilience. So from this, we moved on to compare the insights that we got from the community with that of expert views, so policymakers and academics. And we see that while there is some sort of agreement in terms of the visions that our communities identified, there's also some important differences and sort of problems when it comes to the finer detail in terms of implementing some of these ideas, which suggest that you do need to reconnect with communities and sort of negotiate the fine-tuning of transitions at local level. There's also acknowledged difficulties in transposing and communicating national and global targets of change to the local level. So local communities have very specific profiles in terms of mobility practices, housing stock, building environment, etc., which don't necessarily match the national picture. So there's a need to sort of translate and to reframe these targets and make them sort of more specific to smaller scale parameters. Otherwise, they stop making sense at local level. Furthermore, we also did a range of engagements looking at how you can engage and mobilize communities in climate action. And there is a number of issues that emerged in this sense, and the use of local deliberation dialogues is kind of inserted within that, which relates to how do you recruit communities at local level and how do you mobilize communities other than those that are already interested in environmental issues. So there's a disconnect there at community level. Also, how do you deal with controversy and protest? And is deliberative dialogue a way of dealing with this? And furthermore, how do you facilitate this form of dialogue and who should facilitate this? So these are sort of important questions that have emerged. So for that reason, we created a deliberative futures toolkit that is sort of, trying to answer some of these questions and showing how some of these local dialogues can be done at local level. And the toolkit is freely available on our website. And that's it for now. I leave you with our contact details, and I look forward to questions and the other presentations. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Alexandra. Okay, I just would like to remind all our speakers that each one of them has 10 minutes for their presentation. So try to make sure that you don't expend it too much, because we would like to finish in an hour and a half. Okay, and also if you can always expand your presentations so that they are on a full screen. Okay, so thank you. And next speaker is Odelia Malka. Odelia Malka is the Chief of Strategy at Argentum Consultants. And Odelia Malka provides consulting services and strategic guidance in establishing and creating the connections, partnering and funding opportunities. And she's focusing on technological innovation, and her efforts target horizontally partnership expansion, bridging research, technology, and industry, and target vertically project implementation, funding, and success. So, Odelia, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll share my screen. Do you see it? Okay, I hope you see it in full size. I don't know.
We can see full size.
Okay, great. So thank you for this introduction. Now I don't have to present myself. Very good. Thank you for inviting me and listening to me. So as Michaela said, I'm Odelia, representing Argentum as Chief of Strategy, and I'll try to exploit these 10 minutes I've been given in order to expose you some funding opportunities tackling climate change challenges, but also to explain about our methodology regarding transnational collaboration. For this purpose, I will give you a short introduction about Argentum, European Innovation Funding. I'll give some headlines about the European Commission KPIs, and then I'll present Horizon Europe, main European non-dilutive funding platform, and then expand to additional funding sources. Finally, and based on our experience, I'll explain about our consortium project building, methodology, and experience. So Argentum Consultant, I'll say just that our vision is to enhance, to be engaged in and facilitate European research and innovation toward cross-sectional cooperation and success. This is our team. Our leading team, divided in 3 departments: business development, strategy, and professional team, that provides a step-by-step service for grant identification, partnership expansion, and grant writing. In order to do so, regarding transnational collaboration, we are obviously relying on a large established platform of active partners and transactional stakeholders. We are physically located in Israel, but working on a worldwide European, on the whole European continent and associated countries. Now, I would like to begin with the European objectives as they are set. The European Commission has set a main goal that is called the climate neutral continent to be achieved for the next years. You are certainly familiar with the Green Deal. The Green Deal seals a list of measurable domains and criteria to be improved in order to reach this goal. The Green Deal itself is aligned with and bases itself on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals defined worldwide by the United Nations. Based on these general guidelines, a lot of initiatives, regulation, and incentives have been set. And there is where I see our role. We support those initiatives, shape solid transsectional collaboration. As Alexandra also mentioned, that it is clearly stated that this goal can be achieved only if the different stakeholders join efforts from different entities and sources. We identify the right funding opportunities, and we align the project initiative to specific and relevant framework regulation. Now let's give a short introduction about Horizon Europe that I suppose you know, but just to explain how it works. So Horizon Europe, the following program after Horizon 2020 for the 7 years of 2021 and 2027. Horizon Europe has mobilized 96 billion euros presented in form of grants for project realization. Structured in 3 pillars, I would like to focus on Pillar 2 and Pillar 3. Pillar 3, Pillar 3 is addressing to breakthrough technology in all fields of activities. Pillar 2 is divided in 6 clusters. For this present meetings, I would say that clusters 4, 5, and 6 are the most relevant. Cluster 4 is digital industry and space, while digitizing digitalized solution as are seen also aligned with the sustainable goals. Cluster 5 is climate, energy, and mobility, definitely aligned. And cluster 6 is food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment. I would say that each of these clusters includes dozens of calls targeting digitized solution, biodiversity conservation, energy positive construction, sustainable mobility, clean oceans, bioeconomy, and more. Now, there's not only Horizon Europe, because actually Horizon Europe is very attractive, but also very competitive. So we are working also with additional funding sources that include specific needs in specific geographical area, like the PRIMA program for the Mediterranean area, the LIFE program for environment and climate actions, InnoFund for a demonstration of innovative low carbon technologies, other bilateral initiatives like Eureka and Eurostars, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, known as the EIT, but also more, as you see here on my screen. I would like to very shortly mention 3 consortium projects that we've built and supported towards submission procedure. First, I would like to mention District Chameleon, because District Chameleon brought together the municipalities of Cork, Cascais and Kladno, here present as a panelist as well and organizer of the event. And this project has promised validation of a modular platform for building retrofitting, fully adapted and adaptive to the natural living environment. This consortium brought together 35 research, industry, and organizational partners from 15 different countries. Datum was an ambitious collaborative initiative targeting a digital, adaptive, up-to-date twin of the oceans based on user-generated marine data. Organizing a large-scale crowdsourcing data collection platform, Datum offers a comprehensive digital and sustainable solution for a clean marine environment. I don't have a lot of time, so I cannot drill into details, even though it's very interesting. The third project I wanted to mention was Synergy. Synergy was a wonderful project demonstrating on-site renewable energy while targeting an economically feasible strategies and widespread adoption. The project included several clean energy sources based on solar, hydro, biochar, and biogas, and waste for biogas, and explored rural and urban environment over Africa. And finally, I'll conclude with this methodology that we've built. I will say that we're aligning ourselves with the main goals of the European Commission. As mentioned before, we are analyzing the goals and implementing them into the methodology. And we are also aligning ourselves to the specific challenges and objectives and expected impacts of each certain goal. We are bridging together the relevant and beneficial function and expertise brought to the project. We are focusing on bridging research, technology, and industry from different parts of the world, while taking into consideration the independent interest of each participant. I will say that only if each participant fulfills his own interest, we can build together a collaborative interest together. And my conclusion would be regarding our general commitment to all of this all of what I presented, because in my opinion, this is a breathtaking ambition to horizontally bridge the partner and vertically target successful project adoption and implementation. Thank you very much for your presence and attention, and feel free to engage conversation with us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Odelia. Great that you managed to fit in your window of time. And the next speaker I would like to welcome and invite is Noel Casserly, who is the Director of Green Skibbereen CLG and CEO of SmartEarth, which is a consultancy on climate change and sustainable development. Noel worked for many years with the Irish government in the areas of environment, climate change and sustainable development, where he led the Irish delegation at UN international negotiations on climate change, and previously was director of Ireland's National Council for Sustainable Development, and he is also on the United Nations roster of national experts for climate change, as nominated by the Irish government. So welcome, Noel.
Thank you very much, Michaela, for that introduction. And I'm just going to share my screen here with you now. I'm going to put it up. I have some slides, so let's see. Okay, so I'm going to talk about basically Green Skibbereen, which is a not-for-profit community group based here in West Cork in the south of Ireland. And I'm also going to talk about a specific project, an ambitious project to establish a centre for climate action and sustainability here in West Cork. So just a little bit about who Green Skibbereen are. We're a community group based here in West Cork, established in late 2019 after a public meeting held in Skibbereen. And there's 6 directors in Green Skibbereen, representing a broad range of experience and expertise. And the commitment really is, to undertake practical climate action at a local level and to engage with the local community to achieve ambitious targets here in West Cork. So I'll just move on to the next one. I suppose the main driver for this was, what can we do here in West Cork to reduce CO2 emissions from a bottom-up approach and engaging local communities? And we identified early on that there was an opportunity in the whole area of retrofit and energy efficiency of homes and businesses. There are government support schemes from the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. So working with partners, the NCE Energy Hub, we encouraged local businesses and people within the community, for example, to install solar panels on the roof of their properties, to look at retrofit of buildings and homes, and things like installation of LED lighting. So that was dipping our toe in the whole area, and that was quite successful, an engagement with the local community. And early on, we identified the opportunity to develop a property here in West Cork, not too far from Skibbereen. It's a former property owned by the missionaries of the Sacred Heart, a religious order, and the opportunity came to look at maybe new uses for this building. And there were projects already underway there, looking at the energy use of the building. So that was I guess this flagship project that we realized that there was a great potential here to do something which would be really valuable, both from a demonstration point of view, looking at how, for example, progress could be made towards net energy zero. But just a little bit about the house itself. It's a house of historic value. It's set in a mature coastal setting, and there's 40 hectares there of mixed woodland and pasture. And it is a special area of conservation. There's a rare fern, the local Killarney fern, which is a protected species. And it has been in the ownership of the missionaries of the Sacred Heart since 1947. But the house itself, the original portion of the house, you'll see it in the front of that picture, dates from the early 1800s. And the later additions, the wings at the side, were added later on by the missionaries. So at the moment, it comprises mixed space of office, lecture halls, workshops, accommodations, and kitchens. And a key point of this house too is that it's an asset for the local community. When it was owned by the missionaries, there was rights of way through the property. They held an annual kind of garden fete. So that's very much part of our thinking as well, is that it must be retained as an asset for the local community. That's the map of the location, showing it right at the southwestern tip of Ireland, along the coast. It's on a main national primary road linking west to east, and just on this estuary of Glandore Harbour. So what's the vision for the Centre of Excellence for Climate Action Sustainability? We undertook 2 feasibility studies. Firstly, Brady Malalu architects looked at the vision for the property, what the new uses could be, what the potential was for this property, what were the essential works that might be needed, for example, in the restoration of the property. And the other part of the feasibility study was undertaken by Exodia consultants, and they looked at the business planning aspects and the socioeconomic rationale or case for the Centre of Excellence for Climate Action. As part of the arrangement with the missionaries of the Sacred Heart, we will have a license to occupy the entire property for an initial period of 5 years. And the studies that have been undertaken set out the vision and the particular activities and uses that could be undertaken. And there's 4 there. There's like an information hub on climate action and sustainability, a residential hub. There would be an accommodation offering there as well. So, for example, we could run residential courses on areas that would support this transition to climate neutrality. There's an events hub, and the training and research and development hub not only encompasses the building itself, if you like, as a living laboratory, but also the grounds. It's the grounds and the woodlands and the amenity and biodiversity value of the entire estate. So an important point for us is really it's collaboration and building partnerships. We're set within a local community there. There's 3 villages that are adjacent or in the environs of the property, Union Hall, Lepp and Glandore. So it's important for us to be part of that community. But looking also beyond that in terms of partnerships for developing projects, and you'll see a number of them that are listed there, including University College Cork on 2 aspects. One is with the School of Architecture in UCC, and the other, of course, is with the Environmental Research Unit. And indeed, some of the very interesting and innovative work that Alexandra spoke about earlier on. We feel that there is opportunities for taking this work and doing a demonstration project based here in West Cork at Myros. Odelia has already mentioned this. We were delighted to have the opportunity to collaborate with Argentum and indeed the other partners in this bid for funding under the previous round of Horizon funding, the Horizon 2020, and looking at the Green Deal, which Odelia has also mentioned. And indeed, this has been instrumental in helping us to make those connections and to build those partnerships, for example, with the community in Kladno and in Cascais. So we, in fact, this has been set the ground for this, and we feel that there is opportunity to take this partnership forward and looking at further opportunities that will arise, indeed under Horizon Europe, or indeed under some of the other programs that Odelia mentioned earlier. So that's essentially where we're at with the project. We're very excited about this event today. We feel that it does set the ground for us to deepen and strengthen this ongoing dialogue that we've started. And indeed, this model process for stakeholders for sharing of best practice at the sub-national level or the interregional level, we think that what we're doing here, we would like to build on this and to build and strengthen this partnership, and to look at approaches for mobilizing support for necessary action on climate change. And we feel that this provides a very good starting point. So that is just a quick tour about what we're about, and those are the contact details, and I look forward to any questions or discussion later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noel. So now the next speaker I would like to welcome is João Dinis, who is the coordinator of the Urban Transition Acceleration Division in Cascais Municipality in Portugal. João is a geographer with post-graduation studies on geographic information systems and sustainable development strategies, who has been developing climate change action and sustainable development strategies for the city of Cascais through innovative approaches on spatial planning, technology, and governance models. So, João, welcome.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for this kind invitation. Once again, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to collaborate, also to share a bit of our work, but most of all to learn with the colleagues that are here with us today. So I'll be presenting very briefly a summarized version of what we're doing here in Cascais. Let me know if there's any connection problem or image problem or something like that. So just to show you a quick imagery of Cascais, we are approximately 100 square kilometers. We are at the end of Europe. We are located stuck between the Atlantic Ocean and the mountain range of Sintra. So there's nowhere we can grow up to. We just have to ensure that we treasure our nature and our environment and our beautiful landscape, as you can see. So that leads me to a few impacts of climate-related events that we've been seeing more often and with more intensity here in Cascais, and we are learning a lot about it, and we're studying that quite significantly with our strategies. So we were the first municipality in Portugal to do a climate change strategy at local scale. We were the first ones to do an action plan on climate adaptation. We were the first ones to do a sustainable development goals localization process, and the first ones to design the carbon neutrality route that was approved by General Assembly, a municipal assembly, just 6 days ago. And we do aim to comply with the Paris Agreement. We do aim to comply with the SDGs, and we really need to put a lot of effort into reducing our carbon footprint. So we want to reduce 500 tons per year of CO2 equivalent of emissions, and we really do aim to do that with a lot of innovation, with a lot of projects, but also never forget the adaptation. So how can we do this? Well, first of all, when I say we, I really do mean we, everybody, including the citizens. So whatever we do, if we understand our energy matrix well, we have to understand that we have to promote public transportation. We have to go with efficiency and innovation tools for this. That's why we use gamification to create incentives for people to use these bicycles, to use these trains, to use our buses that, by the way, are now free of use. We have actually today we are presenting a new hydrogen bus Right now, as we speak, I'm sitting 2 meters across it. I'm in the street while I speak to you because we're going to try it afterwards. I cannot show you yet. And we are working together, just as I mentioned, to tell you that we are working together with citizens and with companies and private stakeholders as well. So this aims to bridge the gap between us and them. We are all working together. Everybody has solutions. We have to make sure that we bring them on, and we create conditions to have early adopters of technology and all of that. So we do aim to have this front-running model for energy community as well. As in, I don't know how it is in your own countries, but in Portugal, this is very recent and very new for us. We do create these incentive schemes through gamification. So it's a very interesting solution where if you are energy efficient, if you use our public transportation, if you walk in the park, if you use our volunteering opportunities, you get points and then you get benefits from that. So both energy footprint, circular economy, our green economy, everything is within together and within the reach of our citizens in our own policies, in our projects, as well as in our innovative items. So we, like I said, on climate adaptation, we have over 80 actions. In fact, I'm just going to skip this. This is a bit of our climate scenarios, which is fairly similar to many of you. But we do have 80 actions, 82 actions to be more precise, that we designed to be implemented. And we are doing it since 2017. And what we've learned, and this is a valuable lesson that we've learned, is that most of the actions, climate adaptation actions, are non-structural or green. That means that green solutions are the key asset for us to be safer and living better in our cities. And that's something that we as municipalities are totally eligible and independent to do. So I usually say that the 20th century was the century of engineering, of heavy engineering. And the 21st century has to be the green engineering. So we have to bring environment back to the city. And obviously, gray infrastructures or gray solutions are mostly for water deposits and water subsistence here in Cascais, because we don't have our own resources. We have it get from other locations. So we do. I'm just going to show you a few ideas of what we're doing together with the citizens. We have the Adapt Cascais Fund. So if you're an NGO or even a private company, you can apply for a grant to promote climate action. So if you have a good idea, you propose and we'll give you money to implement. So you're doing exactly what we are doing when it comes to grants, grant applications. We apply for Horizon 2020 projects and so on, but you can do it as well here because you're an armed arm for us. We are also using innovation on water usage. We were using gray water for non-noble usages. So, for example, for watering our gardens, to clean our streets, our urban areas. So this is water that would be ending up in the ocean. It's already treated. So we're doing that, and we've reached the milestone last year of relying about 100% to this water. So no tap water for this use. We're also using a lot of technology for fire hazard. As you know, we're getting stronger summers. They're being wider in terms of spring and autumn. And that's a real problem for us. We're having a lot of problems. So we're using a lot of technology and citizens. You, as a citizen, you can use an application and provide us data, and we can get all that. We're using technology once again to communicate with the citizens. So as I told you, we are stuck between the ocean and the mountain. So there's a lot of tourism here. And we want to make sure that if you are a tourist or if you are a local citizen, you have the access to the same information. So UV rays, dehydration, and all of that, that is quite a heavy burden on our, the equivalent to our NHS here in Portugal, our national service. We are also transforming completely, and this is a big transformation. And once again, we are completely independent to do this. We are using quite an innovative approach on green spaces. But like I said, green spaces are the solution for climate adaptation, and we are using our own environment to design new ones. So we are not putting any lawn anymore, any grass, any vegetable species that need constant watering. We're just using the nature environment as it is, and we're tutoring people as we progress. So let's forget about all those very beautiful plants that need water on a yearly basis, that have a garden that is completely colorful during the spring and the summer, but not so much in the winter, because it's normal. And we're not the only ones that use these spaces. Other species of animals use it too, and we all need to share that, all of that. So just a quick summary. We are using a lot of team coordination spirit here. So I'm not an expert on energy. I'm not an expert on water. I'm not an expert on green spaces, and neither is anyone. We are only experts in one single field. That's why we are called experts. So the challenge is to merge all the knowledge from these areas and make sure that we understand what we have to get together and what are the cross benefits of working together. And so cities are a preferable location to do this, to implement policies that citizens can act. And this is a momentum priority. This is something that we can really do change, and we are happy to provide you with some evidences of what we're doing here. When we were told that it's impossible to give free transportation just by taxing parking lots, for example, it's impossible to give greenways its environmental values. No, it's not impossible. We have to do this. So we do this through a transformative spirit and throughout innovation. And this is something that it's a win-win for everyone that we have here. So I do hope I reached my 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, João. And so now we have our sixth speaker, David Škorňa, from the Kladno municipality in the Czech Republic. David Škorňa is the coordinator of the Sparks H2020 project in City Kladno. He is the main chief of the Sparks project, which is focusing on energy, climate, mobility, digitalization, and collaboration. He is an expert in the energy sector and smart city projects and has been involved in many international projects. So David Škorňa, it's your time window now.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Thank you all for organizing this event. I hope you hear me well. And just a quick check whether you see two screens on the one screen.
I see multiple screens. I don't think it's a full screen.
Okay, I'll try.
Yeah, now it's better.
Great, thanks a lot. One more time, thank you for inviting me. I'm representing the city of Kladno, and we are part of the Horizon project, which is probably the delivery mechanism of the activities we are doing here. On the screen, you can see, let's say, a very brief outline of the Kladno city in comparison with the western part or some other countries. We are quite small, but still we are the 13th the biggest city in the Czech Republic. We are situated in the central Bohemia region, which is the city is only 20 kilometers from the Prague, so not that far away. But behind us, if we look into the history, we are having in the history heavy industry and coal mining. It was also the biggest employers in the city. So you can imagine after, let's say, canceling and closing the industry, we had really problems, and we struggled with the huge unemployment and so on. But we have decided to introduce a new energy and climate policy in the city, and it came with Horizon 2020 project Sparks. And at the beginning in the project, we have started with preparation of new energy policy. Also, we're having in the mind that we have to deliver or at least mitigate some Green Deal and climate targets. But in the meantime, we have prepared some of the projects as well. In the red box, you could see, let's say, the words cloud, which is representing the activities, results, and the outputs we do or we have to deliver in the projects. And we are very happy. In the same time, it's very difficult to go from the overall perspective, from the vision in the city, to do specific projects to be implemented. So lots of activities are as a part of the project, and some of them are related and realized aside of the project as well. In the next box, you might see the partners in the Sparks projects, and together with a key partner in the Czech Republic, which is Czech Technical University, the Center for Energy Efficiency Building institutions. We have there also the two lighthouse cities, which is Espoo and Leipzig, and you might see also the rest of the partners in the slide. And as I was mentioning, we would be very happy to go from, and we call it that the black is new green. We would like, you might see on the picture, our historical industry monument in the Kladno. We would be very anxious to introduce it as an example, but it goes together with other places in the Kladno. We would be glad to deliver new energy policy. And not only by examples, but also by commitments, because we feel that if we are not committed, it's very difficult to draft, a roadmap for implementation. So within the Sparks, we are having the commitments to, let's say, to solve the CO2 emissions reduction, increasing renewables energy, and so on. And we have set up also some, let's say, horizontal or vertical, if you want, principles. It's inclusion, which is the vision and the strategy has to be done on the participation. Resilience is very important for us, because if we want to introduce the green goals, let's call it like that for now, we don't have to forget about, or we can't forget about the local economy, we can't forget about the social stratas in the city and so on. And of course, we would like to introduce some of the new projects in the smart city area and so on. Here, actually, it was approved by the City Council previous week, which is the Sustainable Energy Climate Action Plan, so-called SECAP. You probably know it. It goes from Coven and the mayors, and it was done after 1 year preparation. And now we kind of know what we want to do. We have a data, and we have set up some another targets related with the vision or related with the particular priorities. So, of course, there's reduction in CO2 emissions by 40% by 2030. We would like to become carbon neutral city by 2050, but to be honest, it's very far away, and there are lots of factors around us which are influencing these targets. Together with these visions and the targets set up, it has to go the financial strategy, because we can't do it without any even external financial resources. So in here you may see that the implementation is planned. Implementation of the SECAP is planned to be done for let's say 800 million of euros. And only 1/10 of it we can influence it by the city. So you might see here very huge portion of the implementation which lies on the business, on the industry, or another partners. We have set up also the ecosystem energy platform, because without partners, without research, without local biggest companies, or even small one, maybe in the future without some new startups approach, we are not able to achieve it at all. It goes together with, let's say, structure of ownership in the city, that the city doesn't have lots of, development areas. We don't own the power plant, heating power plant. So we had just set up the platform, which consists of several partners. On the right side, you may see, let's call them the project outline. Some of them are quite detailed, and some of them are in the phase of preparation or realization. Examples: the public buildings. We are starting with the infrastructure we can influence directly, and since there is no good conditions within some of the buildings, we are planning to renovation, public retrofit. We've done analysis for 14 city buildings as like first phase by EPC energy performance contracting method, and we are looking at it in the complex way. It's not only about the energy savings and decreasing of CO2, but also we have to look at the, let's say, environment for the pupils, for the teachers, for the parents. So we're trying to add there also some kind of environmentally friendly installations within the buildings. Some of the targets compared to 2019, which is the basis for our action plan, and 2030. You may see the numbers here. And another example is the ice hockey stadium, where we are now renovating roof and isolation, and now we want to build, it's in the progress, also a new energy center, cooling technology, and we are calculating now the, let's say, use of the waste heat within the area. One specific example, which is the part of this partners, is a positive energy district concept. So here you might see the English version of our leaflet. It's also in the website. So if you like to read more, you can reach it on the websites. But generally speaking, it's a partial area within the city where you have to produce more energy than you consume. So of course, it goes together with renewables installation and equipment and so on. We have like 3 concepts, which is generally known, and within the city context, we are close to the, let's say, pet dynamic concept, which means that we would be happy to, let's say, produce energy outside of this locality. And of course, we probably will focus also on the virtual power plant pet, which means that you collect some of the buildings, some of the infrastructure within the city, and within the calculation you will make, you will reach the positivity there. We've done the 1-year analysis, lots of meetings online, of course, because it was a pandemic, but there's not much delay in there. And we've set up some working groups, and now we are drafting the technical energy concepts. And also it goes together with the urban concept, mobility concept, because we can't do it solarly, only energy in solar way. So now, of course, the most important issue behind it is to reach positive, actually positivity, and to reach the business strategy around it. So of course we are smart city means smart people. I just wanted to highlight this, and we want to introduce this kind of approach towards the citizens, towards the partners. We have started piloting the smart city platform. 2 years, so it's done. We are testing some sensors, parking spaces, and we have also have energy IT tool for monitor the consumption within the buildings. In here, maybe to conclude, I can say we are determined to do it, but we want to turn the plans into the reality. But there is, miles and miles ahead of us, and it's a quite long pathway to do so. And there are lots of challenges going with the modernization of district heating network, because this is very important for our inhabitants. It goes also with the overall national-wide approaches with the coal sources to be abolished. Implementation of some regulation within our let's say framework, but also as you have seen, probably it goes with a substantive funding of these activities, and we have to deal with that because we don't have a kind of good history in terms of investment and so on. So some challenges are ahead of us, and I think this meeting is also based on the collaboration, inspiration, and learning. And it's a shame we haven't done the district come alone. It wasn't approved, but I think with colleagues we will cooperate on that, and we will definitely find each other in some maybe follow-up projects. So because this kind of projects are helping to reach the goals we are planning. And in here you just see our examples of the websites. Czech documentary was done with the Kladno and initiatives we are part of, or we are just in front of to submit our application to these initiatives. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm here for answering your questions, even within this meeting or afterwards. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you very much, David. If you could just stop sharing your screen. Great, thank you. So now the last speaker is Tonia Spollen Behrens, who is the Enterprise Ireland's manager for Poland and the Baltics. She has extensive experience in tendering on an EU and national level, and she has worked with the small and medium enterprises submitting public tenders and EU applications for funding. She previously worked in Berlin for 10 years and prior to that in Brussels. So welcome, Tonia.
Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you very much for the very kind introduction. My name is Tonia Spollen, and as Michaela kindly pointed out, I am manager in Poland for Poland and the Baltics. A quick thank you to our ambassador Cliona Manahan for putting together such an incredible program today, and to Brendan McCormick and to Noel Casserly. An amazing amount of work has gone into this. I feel in the privileged position to be slotted in at number 7, but I will keep it brief. So let me just try and share my screen. And so 1 second. So I hope you can see this. So at Enterprise Ireland, we are ready for a green future. So what I'm going to do is just quickly talk about opportunities that we see for Irish companies and for European companies who are in the green solutions and smart solutions space to help out our cities to meet their climate targets. So I will just quickly talk you through this, and as I say, really happy to answer any questions afterwards, but I am conscious of the time. So first of all, I think more or less everybody knows what Enterprise Ireland is all about. So we're the government organisation responsible for helping out our companies to grow their exports. We're in 30 international locations covering 60 markets. So my area is Poland and the Baltics. My colleague Ladislav Muller, who I think is on the call also, is based in Prague and covers a number of other Central Eastern European markets. So that is an introduction to ourselves. So just as a basic, and probably most of you would know this already, what are the international financial institutions or finance institutions? So we have the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank, the Asian Infrastructure Bank. There's a number of them. And so I suppose, what is the relevance of it? Well, there are tendering opportunities for Irish companies, for European companies to go for. And I suppose the one of most interest to me now, my new role in Poland, is the EBRD, which is the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So I'll just talk about that in a moment. So the opportunities lie by collaborating, and I think the sense of today is a sense of collaboration, and if Irish companies collaborate with their counterparts in other countries, they have a greater chance of winning, or with their counterparts in their own country. There are many ways to find these opportunities. Enterprise Ireland runs a number of business opportunity seminars throughout the year together with these IFIs. And in most of these organizations, we have an Irish delegate. And in the case of Portugal and the Czech, I'm sure you have your delegates too, who are fantastic at providing information. But I'm also very happy to receive emails from anyone that I can help out on this. You can also find opportunities on a number of portals. The one I find very good is Development Aid, very, very relevant and up-to-date information. So the opportunities lie from all sorts of consultancy to large infrastructure, but the emphasis is really shifting to green, which is great to see, and it's good for us all to get behind. And as Enterprise Ireland, we're looking for the business side of things. How can we help our companies to win? How can we find the opportunities? So coming from a tendering background, my experience has always been, it's better to partner up to win. You have a better way of displaying case studies, sharing experiences, and it's always a very rewarding project. One of the events I found most rewarding was the United Nations International Procurement Seminar, which I actually organized together with our ambassador's support, and she is a great person to have behind you on a project. And this was a very successful event, and it just showed all of the aspects that United Nations agencies are procuring at the moment. So the one area of really specific interest to me because of my new role and my new focus is the EBRD's Green Cities Initiative. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the EBRD, they were founded in 1991. They are headquartered in London. The current chair of the Board of Governors is our Minister of Finance, Paschal Donohoe. It's a really, really interesting initiative, and the EBRD, I must say, are probably one of the most approachable organizations to chat to about your ideas. They're incredibly hard workers and great people. So they have currently 45 cities, and I'm proud to say that Warsaw was city number 1. And in this, they developed these action plans of what they can do to improve the environment in the cities. And I suppose from my point of view, looking at it from a business angle, I'm trying to see where our great Irish companies can fit into this picture and what opportunities lie for them. So my understanding of how this works, if you happen to be a city, is you must have a trigger investment. So you have to have a good plan. This is an example for Sarajevo. Now, this will be a larger scale one. It doesn't have to be of this size. And from this, you develop your action plan, and then the EBRD will provide financing based upon what you're trying to achieve. So it is really, really an interesting prospect from all angles, from the environmental considerations to finding business for companies and for improvement of the lives of the citizens in the various cities involved. Obviously, the UN Sustainable Development Goals are very important, and these green cities hit a lot of the boxes on this one. And this is the impact since they began this in November 2016. And as I say, I'm not speaking on behalf of EBRD, but I just think it's such a fantastic initiative that I think a lot of people need to know about this. And from my side, as I say, being speaker number 7, I didn't want to keep you too long. This is my email address. Really happy to hear from any of you. And again, thank you very much for such a brilliant, brilliant webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tonia. So thank you to all our speakers today. All the presentations were really inspiring and fascinating. And now we will go to our Q&A session. I think, Brandon, how much time do we have at this point for Q&A?
You have about 10 minutes in total, Michaela.
Oh, we have only 10 minutes. Okay. So the first question that I can see here is from, it's for David. Does Kladno have any plans on incorporating heating and cooling from geothermal energy, for example, for district heating or the hockey stadium?
Thank you for the question. I have already responded on that during via chat, but I can generally sum up what I've said. Yeah, we are now calculating the, let's say, numbers in the ice hockey around the ice hockey stadium, and one geothermal energy potential is one of the options. But it has to go together with some new infrastructure to be bought and to be purchased. So we're just calculation is the moment we are doing now, and generally geothermal energy we are having in the action plan. But since just SecUp, it doesn't go much more into details, we have to disseminate it in more ways in the future.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. So we don't have any more questions. So now I would like to give the floor for the concluding words back to Cliona. Thank you very much for all the questions and for your participation.
Michaela and speakers, now we can see just how useful these webinars are. A huge thank you, because fantastic content, wonderful examples, but also very clear messages about what the difficulties are. If only 10%, for example, in Kladno is coming from the public sources and 90 has to be found, that's an enormous challenge. And it seems to me that you now have all got new connections and new friends, fantastic experience to share. The most important thing about this is that this is a process. I would say that this has shown exactly what the opportunity is, that there is obviously tremendous talent, but also specific examples of what has worked and what hasn't worked. And we probably need to drill into those. The interregional collaboration definitely is the way to go. There is no doubt that for many, it can be extraordinarily complex when you start sitting down and you drill into what is required in responding to these forms. And of course, Europe knows that as well and is doing its best to help. But at the local level, there is knowledge, and those solutions and sharing it are very important. I think the first-hand experience is really what we wanted to get at here. And it's really been very interesting to hear across the screen what are the frustrations and maybe where the sharing of this knowledge, where we can really get in and find each other. Webinars like this show us that it's about partnership. It is at the local level and it is at the regional level. Chameleon is an enormously impressive approach. And I think that there are other ways of doing this. Just in the last couple of weeks, we heard from the Dublin climate dialogues, which were held with a view to COP26, that this is exactly what they want to see going forward to the meeting in Glasgow. So that's part of why we wanted to have this meeting. And my thanks particularly to Noel and to Brendan, because it was only by looking at the site that I realized this work is ongoing, but sometimes you've got to get through a lot more levels. So we want to collaborate on drawing together the conclusions. We want to share them widely. There are many people within the questions. I deliberately wasn't jumping in on it. You know me, you know colleagues in Enterprise Ireland. We're joined today also by Ladislav Muller, who works in Prague. I want you to make sure that you do stay in contact with us. The technology for the green transition exists, the will exists, the momentum is building. Literally every single week, I am seeing what's going on across the regions. And this work for governments, individuals, institutions, and private companies means, yes, we have to do far more, but there's a real will to do it. Thank you to everybody. Please stay in contact. Let's get to action.